The night was cold, and the market was alive with cruel laughter. The alien auction house was filled with smoke, firelight, and the sound of chains dragging across the floor. Rows of cages stood like iron graves, each holding broken humans. There, eyes dull, their spirits crushed. They were not treated as people anymore. Only property, only animals to be sold. At the center of the hall stood a girl, weak and trembling. Her hair was tangled with dirt, her skin marked with bruises and cuts. She tried to stand tall, but the weight of the chains pulled her down. The auctioneer, a tall alien with glowing red eyes, grabbed her by the arm and pulled her forward into the light. Worthless, the alien spat with a cruel smile. She is sick, weak, and useless, sold for nothing if anyone even wants her. The crowd of aliens roared with laughter. Some pointed at her, others made jokes. Some shook their heads as if she was not even worth the dirt beneath their boots. The girl lowered her eyes, her chest rising and falling with heavy breath. She had been moved from cage to cage, day after day. No one cared about her name. No one cared about her tears. She was nothing more than a broken human in a world that hated her kind. The auctioneer slammed his staff on the floor, the sound echoing like thunder. Who will take her? He shouted. 1 credit. Half a credit. She is yours for almost nothing. Silence followed, then mocking laughter. No one raised a hand. No one wanted her. The girl closed her eyes, waiting for the moment she would be dragged back into the cage. Her heart whispered, maybe it would be better to disappear. Maybe her story should end here. But then a voice cut through the noise, calm and steady. I'll take her. The crowd turned, surprised. A man stepped forward from the shadows, dressed in a worn leather coat, his face half hidden beneath the hood. He looked human, but there was something different about him, something sharp in his eyes. He did not laugh, he did not sneer. He only stared at the girl with a gaze that burned like fire. The auctioneer narrowed his eyes. You? For her? The man nodded once, pulling a small coin from his pocket. The alien laughed, shaking his head. Fine, take her. Worthless goods for a worthless price. The chains were unlocked with a loud crack. The girl stumbled forward, too weak to stand on her own. The man caught her before she fell, his hand steady, strong. He said nothing, only guided her away from the stage as the crowd laughed and shouted insults. Sold for nothing. One alien jeered, she is trash, and so are you. Another called, but the man did not look back. Step by step, he walked with her out of the auction house into the frozen night. The wind outside was sharp, carrying flakes of snow that bit against her skin. She shivered, clutching her thin arms to her chest. The man removed his coat and placed it over her shoulders, his movements quiet and firm. The fabric smelled of smoke and steel, heavy but warm. She looked up at him, confused. Why? She whispered, her voice broken. The man said nothing. His eyes fixed on the dark road ahead. He walked as if he had a purpose, as if he knew exactly where he was going. And for the first time in years, she felt a spark of something she thought she had lost hope. Behind them, the alien auctioneer's laughter echoed in the distance. He believed she had no value, no worth, nothing to give. But the man's silence was heavy, filled with meaning she could not yet understand. It was as if he carried a secret, a reason for choosing her when no one else would. The girl tightened the coat around her, her steps weak but determined to follow. She did not know who he was, or why he wanted her. She did not know if she should trust him, but deep inside, she knew this moment was not the end of her story. It was the beginning. As they walked into the darkness, the snow falling harder, her mind filled with questions, her heart beating with fear and curiosity. Who was this man? What did he see in her that no one else could see? And why did his gaze make her feel like her life still mattered? The night swallowed them. the fire of the auction fading behind. The world ahead was cold, dangerous, and unknown. But in that silence, in that long walk into the dark, the girl understood one thing clearly: she was no longer alone. And though she had been sold for nothing, her story was worth everything. The road stretched out into the frozen night, endless and silent. The snow crunched under their feet, the cold biting at their skin. The girl held the man's coat tightly around her thin frame, every step heavy, every breath sharp with frost. She wanted to ask more questions, but fear kept her quiet. The man walked ahead with steady steps, his face hidden beneath his hood. He moved with purpose, as if he knew exactly where he was going. He did not speak, did not turn, only checked once in a while to make sure she followed. His silence was heavier than words. The girl's thoughts twisted like tangled chains. Why did he buy her? Why would anyone waste even a single coin on someone marked as worthless? She studied him as they walked, but his movements gave nothing away. He was strong, but not dressed like the wealthy, not armed like the soldiers, not cruel like the aliens. He was something else. Something different. Finally, after hours of walking, they reached a small ruin, a broken shelter with walls cracked by time and roof torn by storms. The man pushed the door open and guided her inside. It was cold, empty, but at least safe from the wind. He pulled a small pack from his shoulder and lit a tiny fire with practiced hands. The flames flickered, weak but enough to push back the darkness. The girl sat near it, stretching her frozen fingers toward the warmth. The man placed a piece of bread and a flask of water in front of her without a word. She hesitated, her stomach twisting with hunger. Her eyes flicked to him, but he simply nodded once. She grabbed the bread and ate quickly, crumbs falling against her lap. The water burned her throat with cold, but it was the sweetest thing she had tasted in days. When she was finished, silence returned, broken only by the crackle of the fire. The girl finally gathered the courage to whisper, "Why? Why did you buy me?" The man looked at her, his eyes glowing faintly in the firelight. Not normal eyes. Not human, something sharper, deeper. He said nothing at first, as if weighing her words. Then he spoke. His voice low but firm, because they were wrong. The girl frowned, confused. Wrong? About what? The man leaned closer, his expression unreadable. They said you were worthless, but I know that is a lie. His words cut through the air like steel. The girl's heart jumped, but she shook her head. "No," she whispered. "I am nothing. I have no strength, no power. I can't even fight back." Her voice cracked, heavy with years of pain. But the man's gaze did not move. "You are wrong," he said. "And one day you will see what I see." The firelight flickered against the walls, shadows dancing around them. His words left her trembling, not from cold, but from something else, something she had forgotten long ago. A strange spark, a dangerous hope. Before she could speak again, a sound broke the silence. Footsteps in the snow outside, heavy and sharp. The man's head snapped toward the door, his eyes narrowing. The girl froze, fear crawling up her spine. The door creaked as shadows moved outside. Voices echoed, alien tongues, twisted and cruel. The girl's chest tightened. She recognized those voices. The same guards from the auction they had followed. Hunting them, the man stood, pulling a blade from his coat, the metal shining like ice. He turned to her, his voice calm but commanding. "Stay behind me." The door burst open, cold air rushing inside. Two aliens stepped through, their armor heavy, their weapons raised. Their glowing eyes locked on the girl, hunger and hate burning in their faces. "There she is," one hissed. "The worthless one, stolen from the cage." The other sneered. "Give her back, human, or you will die with her." The man stepped forward, his blade steady in his hand. His voice was quiet. but it cut through the room like fire. She is not yours, the first alien laughed. Stepping closer, she is nothing human. Do not waste your life for trash. The girl's hands shook, her breath quick. She wanted to scream, to run, but her body was frozen in place. The man did not move back, did not show fear. Instead, he struck fast as lightning, his blade flashing. Through the firelight, the first alien fell, his weapon clattering to the floor. The second roared, raising his blaster, but the man twisted. Striking again, the fight was brutal, but quick, in moments. The room was silent once more. The aliens lay broken. The fire crackling against the cold. The girl stared at him, her eyes wide. He wiped the blade clean and looked at her, his face calm, as if nothing had happened. He did not boast, did not explain. Only sat back by the fire. The girl's heart raced, fear and awe twisting together. This man had risked his life for her, fought for her without hesitation, and yet, she did not understand why. She hugged the coat closer, her thoughts burning with questions. Who was he? Why had he chosen her? A T. And what did he mean that she was not worthless? The snowstorm outside raged harder, the night pressing in around the ruined shelter. The girl sat in silence, her eyes fixed on the man. She realized something she could not ignore. This stranger was not ordinary. And whatever reason he had for saving her, it was only the beginning of something far greater. The storm raged outside, snow beating against the broken walls of the ruin. The fire inside burned low, shadows stretching across the cracked stone. The girl sat curled in the corner, her eyes fixed on the man who had saved her. He was sharpening his blade with calm hands, as if the fight had meant nothing. Her heart still pounded from the battle. She could see the bodies of the aliens lying in the snow outside, their armor broken, their weapons frozen in blood. The memory of it shook her. The speed, the power, the way he fought without fear. But more than that, his words haunted her. They were wrong, he had said. You are not worthless. The girl hugged the coat closer around her shoulders, her voice trembling. Why do you keep saying that? The man did not look up, his eyes steady on the blade. Because it is the truth. He replied, calm and simple. The girl shook her head, anger mixing with fear. No, you don't understand. I can't fight. I can't run. I can't even survive. On my own, her words cracked in the air, heavy with pain. All my life they told me I was nothing. Even the other humans in the cages looked away from me. Why would you say I am worth anything? The man paused, the firelight glinting in his eyes. You believe their lies because you have never seen yourself, he said. His voice was sharp, but not cruel. Steady like a blade that cuts away weakness. One day, you will know the truth. And when that day comes, the galaxy will know it too. The girl fell silent, confused and unsettled. What truth? What worth could she possibly have? Before she could speak, a sound echoed through the night, a deep rumble, low and growing. The man's head lifted, his body tense. The girl felt the floor vibrate beneath her, dust falling from the ceiling. What is that? She whispered. The man stood, his blade ready, his eyes narrowing. They found us, he muttered. The ground shook as a massive machine roared through the snow. A patrol carrier, its lights blazing like cruel stars. The doors slid open with a hiss, and more aliens stepped into the storm, armored, armed, searching. The girl's heart sank. There were too many this time. Far too many. The man pulled her close, his voice low and urgent. Stay quiet. Stay behind me. But as the soldiers spread out, their lights sweeping through the ruin, something inside the girl began to stir. Her chest burned, a strange heat rising in her veins. Her hand shook, but not from cold. She felt something. Alive, deep in her skin, her vision blurred, the firelight twisting, glowing. Her breath came fast, white clouds spilling from her lips like smoke. The man noticed, his eyes widening. Not now. He whispered under his breath, almost to himself. But it was too late. The girl gasped as light spread across her arms. Thin lines glowing like silver fire under her skin. Her scars, once marks of pain, now burned with strange symbols she did not understand. Her heart thundered as the power pushed out, unstoppable. The nearest alien soldier froze, staring at her. What is that?" he hissed. The girl's body shook as the glow burst outward, a wave of energy knocking snow and dust into the air. The fire died instantly, the ruin shaking. The aliens staggered back, shouting in fear, their weapons sparking. The man caught her before she fell, steadying her as her eyes blazed with light. The girl screamed. But it was not a scream of pain, it was power, raw and wild. The snow around her melted in circles. Steam rising into the storm, her chains, still locked around her wrists, cracked and shattered like glass. The air pulsed with her breath, every beat of her heart pushing the soldiers back. Then, as quickly as it began, the glow faded. The girl collapsed to her knees, gasping, trembling. Her body weak, the ruin was silent except for the storm outside. The soldiers stared at her, their faces twisted with shock and fear. "She's not worthless," one alien stammered. "She's dangerous." Another shouted, his voice shaking. The man stepped forward, his blade gleaming, his voice cutting through the chaos. "You see now," he said coldly. "She was never yours to break." The soldiers hesitated. Fear burning in their glowing eyes, they backed away. Muttering in their harsh language, within moments, they retreated to their carrier. Dragging the wounded with them, the machine roared, and then the storm swallowed its sound, leaving only silence. The girl clutched her arms, staring at the glowing cracks that still shimmered faintly on her skin. Her breath came fast, her heart pounding. What just happened to me?" she whispered, her voice breaking. The man knelt in front of her, his eyes steady, unshaken. "What happened," he said, "is the truth I spoke of. You are not weak. You are not worthless. You are something they fear." The girl shook, her head, tears filling her eyes. "No. This isn't real. I don't understand." The man placed a hand on her shoulder, firm but not unkind. "You don't need to understand yet," he said. "But remember, this tonight was only the beginning. And soon, everyone will know who you really are." The girl stared into the fireless ruin, her body trembling. She had always believed she was nothing, sold for scraps, cast aside as useless. But now the chains were gone, the power had awakened. And for the first time, she wondered if maybe, just maybe, she was worth more than she ever imagined. Outside, the storm howled, carrying her questions into the night. But in her heart, something new had begun to rise. A dangerous spark, a hidden worth that could no longer be denied. The ruin was silent after the storm of power. The girl sat trembling, her arms still glowing faintly beneath the skin. The man stood near the doorway, watching the snow, his blade resting by his side. He did not look shaken, not even surprised. But she could see the weight in his eyes. "They saw what you are," he said at last, his voice calm but heavy. "They will not stop now." The girl hugged her knees, her breath fast. "I don't even know what I am," she whispered. "I don't know why this is happening." The man's gaze turned toward her, sharp but steady. "You don't need to understand yet. What matters is survival." He pulled his coat tighter and motioned toward the door. "Move. We cannot stay here." The girl forced herself to her feet, her body weak. Every step felt unsteady, her head spinning from what had happened. But she followed him because there was nowhere else to go, and deep inside, she feared being left alone more than she feared the storm. They stepped into the night, the snow falling heavier. The wind howled like a living beast, tearing at their clothes. The girl's footprints trailed behind them, already fading under the storm. She tried to keep close to him, her body shaking. With cold and fear, then a sound cut through the storm, sharp and metallic engines, loud and near. The man froze, his eyes narrowing. "They're coming," he said. From the white curtain of snow, lights appeared, glowing red against the night. Hovercrafts, sleek and black, moved across the ice, engines growling. Alien soldiers leaned from the sides, weapons in their hands, their voices carried on the wind, cruel and certain. There, the human girl. "Don't let them escape." The girl's chest tightened, her legs almost giving way. Her mind screamed to run. But fear locked her in place. The man grabbed her wrist, pulling her sharply. "Move," he commanded, and this time, her body obeyed. They ran through the storm, their feet kicking up snow. The hovercrafts roared closer, lights cutting through the darkness. Energy blasts sizzled past them, striking the ground, exploding ice into the air. The girl stumbled, but the man's grip held her steady, pulling her forward. "Don't stop," he shouted, his voice like steel against the storm. They reached the edge of a frozen ravine, the ground splitting into jagged cliffs. The girl gasped, staring at the drop. "It's too far," she cried. The man looked at her, his expression hard. "Trust me," he said, before she could protest. He pulled her close and leapt. The world spun as they fell into the darkness. The wind screamed, her heart pounded. Then they crashed onto a lower ledge, rolling across the snow. Pain shot through her arms. But they were alive. Above them, the hovercraft screeched to a halt. Lights searching the cliffs, the soldiers shouted, their voices echoing against the stone. They went down. "Find them." The man dragged her into a narrow tunnel carved into the rock. The walls were tight, sharp with ice, the darkness pressing in. But it shielded them from the lights above. The girl's breath came fast, her chest burning. She could hear the soldiers climbing down, their weapons clicking. "They're close," she whispered, panic in her voice. The man crouched low, his eyes scanning the tunnel ahead. "Then we stay ahead," he said. They moved deeper, the tunnel twisting like the throat of some great beast. The sound of alien boots echoed behind them. Closer and closer. The girl stumbled, her legs weak. I can't keep running," she cried. The man stopped, turning to her, his eyes burning in the dark. "You can," he said firmly, "because if you don't, they will take you. And everything we've done will mean nothing." His words struck her like fire, and for a moment, her fear gave way to determination. She nodded, forcing herself forward. The tunnel opened into a cavern, vast and silent. Frozen stalactites hung from the ceiling, shimmering in the faint glow of her skin. She gasped, realizing her arms still pulsed faintly with light. The man noticed too, his eyes narrowing control. He said quickly, "Don't let it flare now," but control was impossible. The fear, the running, the danger, it all pressed inside her, and once again, her chest burned. The marks on her arms glowing brighter. The cavern walls reflected the light, filling the space with a ghostly fire. The soldiers burst in behind them, their eyes widening. "Stop her." Blasters lit the cavern, bolts of energy flying. The man deflected one with his blade, the light flashing against the ice. "Go," he shouted. The girl's power surged, wild and uncontrolled. The ground shook, ice cracking under their feet. A wave of energy shot outward, slamming into the soldiers, sending them crashing against the cavern walls. Their weapons shattered, their voices screamed in fear. The cavern roared with the sound of breaking stone. Chunks of ice fell, crashing into the floor. The girl stumbled back, terrified of herself. "I can't stop it," she cried. The man rushed to her side, gripping her shoulders. "Listen to me. You can. Focus. But the power tore free again, blasting through the cavern. The roof cracked, snow and rock crashing down. The man pulled her toward a side tunnel. Just as the cavern collapsed behind them, burying the soldiers under tons of ice, silence fell once more. Broken only by the girl's ragged breathing, her body shook, her eyes wide with terror. "I didn't mean to. I didn't want to," she whispered. The man looked at her, his face unreadable. "You think this makes you a curse?" he said quietly. "But it is not a curse. It is why they fear you. It is why I chose you." The girl's tears froze on her cheeks, her chest heavy with confusion and fear. She wanted to believe him, but all she saw was destruction in her hands. Still, the echo of his words stayed with her, chosen, not worthless. The tunnel stretched before them, dark and endless. Behind them lay ruin and death. Ahead lay only danger and unanswered questions. But for the first time, the girl felt a spark of something different in her chest. Not only fear, but the faint, trembling shadow of strength. The tunnel stretched into silence. Every step echoed against the frozen stone. The girl walked slowly, her body weak from the burst of power, her breath heavy in the cold. The man led the way, steady as always, his blade still at his side, his hood shadowing his face. She hugged his coat around her shoulders, trying to make sense of what had happened. The cavern collapsing, the soldiers buried. The glow in her skin that had destroyed everything. She felt both terrified and empty, like something inside her had been unlocked, but she had no key to close it again. "Finally," she whispered, her voice trembling. "What am I?" The man slowed but did not turn. He was silent for a long time, as if searching for the right words. At last he spoke, his voice low, calm, but filled with weight. "You are the reason they hunt. You are the reason I came to that market. You are not worthless. You never were." The girl shook her head, her voice breaking. "No, I was sold like trash. They laughed at me. Even humans didn't want me." Her hands tightened around the coat, tears burning her eyes. "I don't understand why you keep saying I matter." The man stopped, finally facing her. His eyes caught the faint glow still flickering under her. "Skin, you matter," he said firmly, "because your blood carries what theirs never could. You carry the old power of humanity, something they cannot create, something they cannot kill." Her heart thudded, fear mixing with confusion. Old power. What does that mean? The man stepped closer, his voice steady. "Long before these invaders ruled, before humans were broken and sold, there was a strength hidden in us. Most lost it, forgotten over centuries of chains. But a few are born with it still. Rare, hidden, hunted. Because if the truth spreads, humans will rise again." The girl's breath caught in her throat. She wanted to deny it, to say he was wrong. But she remembered the heat in her veins, the light bursting from her skin, the cavern falling because of her. Her voice shook as she whispered, "So, they sold me for nothing because they feared what I was." The man nodded once. "They called you worthless so no one would protect you. They lied because they knew what you could become." He crouched slightly, meeting her eyes, his gaze sharp, unwavering. "You are not weak. You are dangerous to them because you are hope." Her chest tightened, her thoughts spinning. Hope. Her. She had never been more than a prisoner, a slave, a girl who could not even stand tall without shaking. And yet, the memory of the soldiers' fear echoed in her mind. The way their voices broke when they saw her power. The way the man spoke as if he had always known this moment would come. Tears slipped down her face, her voice a whisper. "I don't want to be dangerous." The man's reply was calm but unyielding. "You don't have a choice. You are what you are. And if you don't choose to rise, they will chain you again or kill you. The tunnel opened into a wide cavern, lit faintly by crystals frozen in the walls. Their glow reflected in her eyes as she tried to breathe, the weight of his words. Pressed heavy on her chest, she was not worthless, she was hunted. Feared, dangerous. But if that was true, what was she supposed to do now? The man sat on a stone ledge, laying his blade across his lap. "I was sent to find you," he said at last. The girl's eyes widened, her heart racing. Sent? By who? The man's jaw tightened, his eyes flicking toward the glow of the crystals. By those who still fight. Humans who refuse to bow. They heard whispers of a girl with the mark. A girl who could change everything. That girl is you. Her body went cold, her breath catching me. She thought, no. It couldn't be her. She shook her head violently. No, you're wrong. I don't know how to control it. I almost killed us back there. I can't be what you think I am. The man's voice cut through her panic. Steady and sure. You don't have to control it yet. You only have to survive long enough to learn. She looked at him. His face lit faintly by the crystal glow, and for the first time she noticed the lines of weariness etched into his expression. This man had risked everything for her, fought. For her, carried her when she could not stand, and still, he spoke to her as if she mattered. Her voice broke again, soft, fragile. Why me? The man leaned forward, his eyes burning like fire. Because you were never worthless, he said. Because the galaxy has lied to you long enough. You are the proof that humans are not broken, and they will do everything to crush you before you rise. The girl stared at her glowing hands, trembling. For so long she had believed their lies. But in this dark cavern, with this strange man, a seed of belief began to grow. Maybe she was not worthless. The silence stretched, heavy and thick. Then, far above them, the sound of engines roared again, echoing down into the tunnels. The girl's head snapped up, fear returning to her chest. They're still looking. She whispered. The man stood, his blade shining in the crystal light. They will always be looking, he said. Until you choose what you are meant to be. The girl hugged the coat closer, her eyes wide with fear. But somewhere in that fear, a spark of something else flickered, the beginning of belief, the first step toward truth. And though the storm outside raged on, for the first time, she did not feel only hunted. She felt chosen. The tunnels shook with the sound of engines above. The girl pressed her back against the cold stone, her hands trembling as faint light pulsed beneath her skin. She could hear the soldiers' voices echoing down, sharp and cruel. They were coming. And this time, there would be no easy escape. The man stood tall, blade resting against his shoulder, his eyes fixed on the dark passage ahead. He did not look afraid, only ready. The girl glanced at him. Her chest tight. You can't fight them all, she whispered. His gaze flicked to her, steady and unbroken. I don't need to, he said. We fight together now. Her heart stumbled at his words. Together, she wanted to deny it. To tell him she wasn't ready, but the memory of the cavern of the power that had burst from her like fire burned inside her mind. She had no control, but she had strength, and maybe, just maybe, it was enough. The first lights appeared in the tunnel, glowing red as the soldiers moved closer. Blasters hummed, boots slammed against the stone. The man stepped forward, blade raised, his voice calm. Stay behind me until you must act, the soldiers charged. Their weapons firing bright bolts through the dark. The man moved like a shadow, fast and precise. His blade cut through the first soldier, sparks flashing as metal met armor. The girl gasped, ducking as blasts slammed into the walls, shards of ice flying. Her arms glowed brighter, the marks across her skin pulsing with heat. Her fear rose, but with it came the fire. She pressed her palms against the stone without thinking. A surge of energy ripped out, shaking the ground. The tunnel floor cracked, throwing soldiers off. Their feet, their weapons scattering. The man glanced back at her, his eyes sharp but approving. "Good," he said. "Do not run from it." The girl's breath came fast. Her heart pounding. More soldiers stormed in, their commander at the front. A towering alien with black armor that shimmered in the fire of their weapons. He raised a massive blaster, his voice booming. "Enough. The girl belongs to us." The girl flinched, the words stabbing into her chest. Belongs. She had heard it all her life, in cages, in chains. But now, something inside her snapped. No. She screamed, her voice echoing like thunder. Light burst from her body, flooding the tunnel. The soldiers shielded their faces, blinded. The commander raised his weapon, but the energy ripped it apart in his hands, sending him crashing into the wall. The man fought beside her, cutting down any soldier that tried to push through. His movements and her power wove together like two sides of the same storm. Steel and light, fire and shadow. The tunnel became a battlefield, and for the first time, Stigura did not feel weak. But the commander rose again. His armor cracked, but his strength unbroken. He charged through the rubble, roaring. The girl's body shook, her energy burning too fast. "I can't," she gasped. The man's voice cut through the chaos, steady and strong. "Yes, you can. You are not worthless. Remember who you are." Her chest burned, her skin blazing with light. She lifted her hands, focusing not on fear, but on his words. Not worthless. The energy burst forward, sharp and controlled this time, a beam of pure light struck the commander, tearing through his armor. His roar turned into a scream before he fell, his body shattering against the stone. The soldiers froze, staring at her with wide eyes, their weapons lowered, their voices trembling. She destroyed him, one whispered, another dropped his blaster, fear breaking his courage. One by one, they turned and fled into the tunnels, their retreat echoing like thunder. Silence fell at last, broken only by the crackle of stone collapsing. The girl fell to her knees, her body weak, her glow fading. She gasped for breath, her tears falling hot against her frozen cheeks. The man knelt beside her, his hand steady on her shoulder. "You did it," he said softly. "You showed them the truth." Her voice cracked. Fragile and afraid, I almost lost control again. He shook his head, his gaze sharp but kind. "No, you controlled it when it mattered. You chose to fight, and that choice makes all the difference." The girl looked at her trembling hands, the faint marks still glowing. She remembered the laughter at the market, the chains, the word worthless thrown at her again and again. And now those same aliens had fled from her in fear. Her heart trembled, not with shame, but with something new. Strength, she raised her eyes to the man, her voice barely a whisper. "What happens now?" He stood, offering his hand. "Now they will come harder, stronger. They will not forgive what you have done here. But," he added, his voice firm, "they will also know they cannot stop you." And that is the beginning of freedom. The girl placed her hand in his, letting him lift her to her feet. Her legs shook, but she stood, her eyes glowing faintly in the dark. For the first time in her life, she did not feel like nothing. She felt like someone the galaxy could not ignore. Together, they walked deeper into the tunnels. The snowstorm above howled like a warning, but inside her, a fire burned brighter than the storm. A fire that whispered of rebellion, of change, of freedom. And though she was once sold for nothing, she was no longer worthless. She was becoming the weapon they feared, and the hope they could not kill. He-Man and the girl stepped out of the tunnels at dawn, the first light breaking across the frozen horizon. The air was sharp, the silence heavy. But for the first time, she did not feel like a prisoner in the cold. She felt like someone who had survived. Her body still trembled with weakness, her hands glowing faintly beneath the skin. Every step was heavy, yet her heart carried a strength she had never known. The man walked ahead, his cloak dragging against the snow, his blade hanging loosely at his side. He looked as if nothing had changed. But she could feel that something had shifted between them. The girl broke the silence, her voice soft. "They will come back, won't they?" The man nodded once, his eyes scanning the horizon. "They will come back with more soldiers, more machines, more chains." He looked at her, his gaze sharp. "But now they know what you are. They know you are not weak." That fear will spread faster than any chain. Her chest tightened, torn between fear and hope. She remembered the way the soldiers had fled, the way the commander had fallen. For the first time, the word worthless no longer felt like hers. Still, doubt lingered in her heart. "I don't know if I can be what you say," she whispered. "I don't know if I'm strong enough." The man stopped, turning fully to face her. "You don't have to be strong. Yet," he said firmly, "you only have to keep moving, keep choosing, keep fighting. Strength will come. It always does." His words burned inside her. Heavy but steady, she lowered her eyes, gripping his coat tighter around her shoulders. For years, she had believed she was nothing, a shadow, a mistake. But now someone saw her, someone believed in her, and for the first time, she wanted to believe too. They reached the edge of the valley, where ruins of an old human camp lay buried in snow. Shattered walls, broken machines, the bones of a forgotten fight. The girl walked slowly among the ruins, her hands brushing against the frozen steel. "This was ours," she asked softly. The man nodded, his eyes dark with memory. "Long ago, humans fought here. They lost. But not forever." The girl knelt, touching a cracked helmet half buried in ice. Her skin glowed faintly, the light spilling across the metal. For a moment, she felt a strange pull. As if the ruins themselves remembered her, she looked up at the man, her voice trembling. "Will we always lose?" The man's voice was sharp, cutting through the cold. "Not if you rise. Not if you choose to fight." He stepped closer, his tone steady. "You are proof that humans are not broken. Proof that we can still stand. And they will try to bury that proof under fear. But if you stand, others will stand too." Her heart pounded at his words. She looked at the ruins again, at the broken pieces of a past she had never known. Maybe she had been sold for nothing. Maybe they had laughed at her. But here in this moment, she understood. Her story was not meant to end in a cage. The silence stretched, broken only by the wind. Then the man placed his hand on her shoulder. His voice low but fierce. "This is only the beginning. What happens next will not be easy. But you are not alone anymore." The girl's chest swelled, her doubts still heavy, but beneath them, something new burned. She stood taller, her eyes lifting to the horizon where the sun touched the snow with fire. For the first time, she felt as if the world was waiting for her, not to break her, but to see her rise. She turned to him, her voice steady, though soft. "What will I become?" The man's eyes met hers, sharp and certain. "You will become what they fear most," he said. "The hope they cannot kill." The girl's heart beat faster. Her fear not gone, but changed. It was no longer the fear of chain sit, was the fear of what she might become. But even that fear carried power above them. A distant roar echoed across the mountains. Engines, faint but growing. The man's gaze lifted, his jaw tightening. "They are coming again," he said. The girl's breath caught, her hands glowing faintly. She looked at him, her voice trembling, but certain. "Then let them come." The man's lips curved into the smallest shadow of a smile. "Good," he said, "because this fight is no longer mine alone." Together, they stood at the edge of the ruins, the snow swirling around them. The storm of enemies still ahead, the path uncertain, dangerous, unending. But in her heart, the girl knew one truth clearly. She had been sold for nothing. She had been called worthless, but now, she was no longer a prisoner, no longer broken. She was the beginning of something greater. The dawn light touched her skin, mixing with the glow beneath it, and as the engines grew louder in the distance, the girl stood unafraid, her eyes fixed on the horizon. For the first time, she was ready. Her story was not over. It was only the beginning.